So, good day everybody. This is Kevin from Construction Scale Model Imports in Australia today, doing a video on a WL870 wheel loader and how we have hooked up a Futaba FX20 radio so you can get more functions out of this particular wheel loader, more than what the standard radio and what the factory actually does. So I'm going to show you the few switches on this radio, how we have set up the slides, the 3D joystick, which has been modified by us, extra switches, and how you can control your pump actually so that you can get a variable displacement. So you don't need to go just by one speed, how the factory has set it up. We have also a quick connect that we have set up on this machine. And also we've set up the lights on this particular machine. So you've got your lights, you've got your quick connect, disengage and engage. You can now start your machine, plus you have your steering wheel and also variable displacement pump. And we have also fine-tuned the gearbox with this particular switch so that you can now have a neutral forward. You can have a neutral, you can have the low speed four-wheel drive, and of course you can go forward and reverse using the joystick. So one added function which the company doesn't give you is the neutral position. So we can now have a neutral position so the machine is idle. You can rev the engine and you can go into low speed or high or four-wheel drive option. So sorry, I stand corrected, it's high speed or two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive option. So that's very important. So first of all, for those who are new to radio control, here is a LiPo battery. You have two sets of cables. One is for charging. This is the balancing port. You need to use a beeper. This will basically tell you when the battery has reached 11.1 volts. Once it goes below a certain voltage, you could actually damage the battery. So this beeper will actually scream and also tell you, display the voltage. You can't see the voltage when it's inside the machine, but this one will beep and tell you. This particular machine, we do have a screen. I will show you that also, the modifications that we have done. So how do you plug this? You've got a black wire and 3 red wires. So let me just bring this close. Obviously you can see it. It's a bit hard for the camera to focus. Let me see if we can get this into focus, but I guess you can see it's quite visible. There's only one black wire, 3 white wires. And you can see you've got the digits. You can plug it one way. There you go. It beeps. I'll take it out. It's quite a loud beep. If you plug it anyway, it doesn't matter. It's not going to beep. It's not going to work. So obviously you plugged it the wrong way. So there's only one way you can plug. If the pins are facing down and you can read the digits, then the black wire must be the first wire. Very simple to remember. Any other way you plug it, it's not going to work. So if it's facing you, pins are down, the black wire must be the first wire that goes in. So here we go, and you'll hear the beep now. Okay, so it's got some readings. So it's cell number 1 is 3.8, cell number 2 is 3.9, cell number 3 is 3.9, and totally we got 11.6. So obviously I've been using the battery and it's not fully charged. This will constantly tell you, I'll bring it up so you can see. So cell number 1, 3.8, cell number 2, 3.9, cell number 3, 3.9, and total of 11.6. So this is how you would plug the beeper or the battery saver to your battery. You must have this in, so it just protects your battery so that you don't damage the battery by going into high voltage. Now, I do have a battery set up in the machine. This is only for demo, so I'm going to take that out. I'm not using a screamer today in the machine because I'm not going to run it hard. So the battery is fully charged and I do not have to worry too much. Now I'll show you what is inside the machine. So excuse the camera and the shakes. I'll bring it a little bit more closer so you can actually see. So let's get the camera closer into focus. So in this one, we're using a Futaba 14-channel receiver. Here I've got the cable for my battery. This is a female cable. It's an XT60. I've got a male cable XT60 and I'm going to plug this in up here. This particular machine has been modified for brake lights, tail lights. We've got beacons. I'll bring it up here so you can see. We've got 2 beacons on this machine up here. We've got a little screen on the inside. So there's a few modifications we have done to derive more out of this machine. So the first thing I'm going to do is power the radio up. This is not generally required in 2.4 gig, but if you're using megahertz, then generally it's always best to power the radio up. So next step is power the battery. There is a tune. Okay, so there's 3 beeps to tell you, the speed controller is telling you it's a 3-cell battery. There is a green light up here. This green light must be solid or constant, which is telling me it's linked to a radio. If it's flashing and the radio is on, then it means it detects a radio, but it's not being bound, or it's not linked like what you have in your Bluetooth mechanism. So we need to link it, but in this case we've already linked it. We will cover that linking process in another video. So first step is put the radio on. I'll just go through that process once again for everybody. So all I'm doing is switching the radio on. Now when I switch this particular radio on, it says yes and no. Do you want to transmit? So I'm going to dial yes and hit the center button. Okay. So once again, just for everyone's benefit, I'm going to go through that sequence once again. So power the radio up. It's now beeping. Yes or no. I'm going to now rotate yes. And I'm going to hit enter. So there you go. It's powered up right now. Now that it's powered up, the next thing we're going to do is the right hand switch is now linked up with our hydraulic pump. So I'm just going to start that up. There you go. Okay, so the center is off. That's full. Center is off. So that is for the pump, and you can clearly hear the pump actually squeal when we're running this particular pump. So I'll just go up again. Center is stop. Now, to start the machine, we have hooked up the ignition to the joystick, just like a real machine. When you crank the key, I'm just going to turn this quickly. Okay. That's off. So start the machine is very simple. Okay, and there you go. That's off. Now, if you want the horn, you just go the opposite direction. Okay, there is a function in the center, but we haven't utilized this because we don't need that on this particular machine. So that's your engine started. Now, this particular machine, we have done some programming, so you actually have proportional sound when you use the hydraulic. So watch what happens when I actually push the stick up. So the engine's revving. So you can hear the sound. The engine is proportional, or the joystick is proportional to get the sound revs high. This doesn't come standard with the factory. This is a modification done by us. So now I'm going to start the hydraulic pump so that you can see the hydraulics function. I'm just thinking how I can squeeze the radio so you can see the radio as well as the hydraulics working. I think this could be a better way to get into focus. So there you go. So I'm going to start the pump by pushing it up. Okay. So I don't need too much of power because I'm not going to do a lot of digging. Remember, the original machine only has a switched function, so you only get it a preset value and the pump will just run at that preset value. You can't do a variable pumping option. So in this one, we've got a variable or a proportional pumping option. So The pump's running pretty slow now, and you watch what happens when I push the stick. I'll bring it into focus so that you can see what we're trying to achieve here. Okay, I think that's better. So, okay, so as you move the joystick, the boom goes up, and as the boom goes up, the engine's working harder. Okay, now same with the steering. You got a steering on this one. And on this joystick, we actually have the bucket in and out. Sorry, if this is forward and reverse, but the engine is now in neutral. It's revving. You can see the dry shaft is idle. Okay, and this is for the bucket in and out, or crowd. The next function is the gearbox. So this is low speed or rear wheel drive. Okay, and now I will go into low gear, so that's 4-wheel drive. You can hear the gearbox actually, it's doing more work, and you can see it revving more harder. Now to get it back to neutral, there is a notch in the center, so that is pretty much neutral, but sometimes, because it's so fine, it may not engage into neutral. So it's very sensitive. You need to go above the notch, come back to the center, and that will pretty much get it back to neutral. There you go. So that's back to neutral. So in case if it doesn't go to neutral, there is a little notch in the center. You need to go up, come back down, and that will take it back to neutral. So let me go back, come back. Okay, so we are in neutral. So that is the function for the pump, the gearbox, starting, steering, boom up, forward, reverse, bucket in, bucket out. Okay. The next function, this particular switch in black, we've used a black switch for actually crowding in the bucket in and out. And we've used this the blue one, because high beam is actually bright. So in your dashboard it's blue in color, which indicates high beam. So we've used this for lights. Now, it is a 3-position switch. So when you go up, it'll give you hazard. I will reposition the camera so you can actually see. So I'll show you the rear first. So bear with me for this so you can actually even see what happens with the brake and the tail lights. This is a better way to demonstrate this. So 3-position switch. It's now in the center. Let me try to get this okay. So 3-position switch is in the center. I'm going to push it up and watch what happens to the lights. So now you got your hazard lights on. So I go up quickly, come back to the center, and the lights go off. I quickly go up, and you got the hazard lights on. The hazard lights are also in the front as well as the back. Now I come back to the center, it goes off. I go down and I come back to the center. That is low beam. So you now have the hazard lights and a set of white lights at the back. I will show you what it looks like in the front. So let's rotate this. Okay, so now you have your low beams. I'm now going to go down, and you got your high beams. So I'll just go through that once again. Apologize. I'll go through the stop sequence and walk you through it once again. So bear with me. Okay, so here we go. Let's start once again. So the switch is now in the center position. So excuse me for the shakes. I'm trying to squeeze both of them in the same screen so you can see what I'm doing. So if I move the switch up and leave it up, you're going to get the hazard. Okay, I'm going to bring it down to the center. I'm going to go up and bring it down to the center, and it goes off. So once again, from the center, I go up, and you've got the hazard lights. I bring it back to the center, I go up and bring it back to the center, and that puts the hazard lights off. Now, if I put it down and leave it down for 1 second and bring it back to center, that gives me my low beam. So, from the center, you need to go down and come back within 1 second quickly, and that will give you your low beams. Now, if I leave it for more than 1 second and come back to center, that gives me my high beam. So I'm going to repeat that once again for everybody's benefit. So from the center, I'm going to go down and come back to the center again, and that is the low beam. So I'm going to go down again and wait for more than 1 second, come back to the center, and that is the high beam. Okay, so lights off. Now I will show you the quick connect mechanism. So I'll just bring it closer into focus. It's going to be a little hard to detect, I guess. Stop the hydraulics. Okay, hydraulics is off. Now, this device up here is actually the locking mechanism for the quick connect. We'll go through that in the next video. But it's actually operated using the black switch, and the black switch basically denotes quick connect mechanism, or the buckets are black in color. It's black in color, easy to identify. Okay, so you hit it down, it's locked. You can bring it to the center, unlocking is up. Hit it down, it's locked, and you can keep it locked. When the bucket is engaged, or you want to keep the bucket locked, it must be in the down position. Okay, so this is pretty much the function for what we have set up on this machine. I'm just going to bring this camera into focus once again so we can see what is going on. Okay, so this is how we have hooked up. Oh, one more thing before I forget. I need to show you one moment so I can bring it into focus once again. I need to show you a couple of more things in this video which I forgot. So in this particular machine, we have actually set up the reverse and brake lights. So watch what happens to the joystick. I'm trying to squeeze this into the screen, so excuse me for that. Forward. Brake lights, reverse. Brake lights, forward. Brake lights, reverse. Of course, the machine is in neutral, so it's not moving. But the moment you go forward, the brake lights cut off. You stop the lever, brake lights come on because you braked, and you're going to go back into reverse. Okay. And the last thing I'm going to show you. Excuse the shakes. Let me just try to get this into focus. It's actually the screen inside the driver's panel. I guess you can see it up here. It says 12.1 volts in here. So basically that is showing us the battery voltage visually in case you needed to see the battery function or what the battery is doing when you're driving this model. Of course, you will have a beeper to protect you, but in case you wanted to physically see what's happening, then you also have a visual display. So I'll just show you the lights once again. This particular beacon has got 14 functions in it. There is another video showing that, and once again I'll just run through the video, run through a few functions. You got the Futaba FX20 radio set up with the WL870 machine. This one we've got a quick connect, and using a 3D joystick, variable pumping options on the sliders, gearbox on the low speed and high speed on the sliders. You got your lights, you got a quick connect, and you got proportional sound using a Futaba FX22 radio on the WL870. So this is Kevin from Construction Scale Model Imports in Australia, doing yet another video for your benefit. As usual, if you have any questions, please feel free to email us at info@csmi.com.au, or you can visit the website, which is www.csmi.com.au. Thank you for watching.